All right, let's dive into one of the most common reasons for that nagging pain in your shoulder. We're going to break down something called shoulder impingement syndrome, what it is, why it happens, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
So, have you ever felt that sharp pinch in your shoulder when you're just reaching up for something on a high shelf? You ever wonder what is actually going on in there? Well, you are not alone. It is an incredibly common problem that sends a ton of people looking for answers.
And for a huge number of those people, the answer is a condition called shoulder impingement. Now I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple once you see how it all works.
So, what exactly is this pinch we're talking about? Let's get right into the mechanics of it.
Okay, it really all comes down to your rotator cuff tendons. You know, those are the crucial bits of tissue that let you lift and rotate your arm. With shoulder impingement, those tendons get trapped and literally squeezed, especially when you move your arm in certain ways.
A really great way to picture this is to think of your tendons as cars driving through a tunnel. Normally, they just glide right through, no problem. But with impingement, it's like a traffic jam. That tunnel space narrows, and the tendons get pinched and irritated instead of just moving freely. Okay, so we get what's happening in there. But why? Why does that traffic jam even happen in the first place? What's causing that space in the shoulder to shrink?
The reasons usually fall into two big buckets. On one hand, you've got structural causes. Think of this as your body's hardware. It's just the way you're built. Maybe the shape of one of your bones, the acromion, is a little more hooked or curved, or maybe you have some bone spurs. Either way, there's just less room in there. And then, on the other hand, you have functional causes. This is more like the body's software. It's all about how your muscles are working, or maybe not working together. Things like a weak rotator cuff or just not having great control of your shoulder blade can make the joint move kind of wonky, and that leads to that pinch.
So, who gets this most often? Well, it's really common in people whose jobs or hobbies involve a ton of overhead arm motion. We're talking painters, construction workers, swimmers, tennis players, you get the idea. Age is also a factor because, natural wear and tear can play a role, making it more common in people over 40.
So, if you're sitting there thinking, hey, this sounds like me, how does a doctor or a physical therapist actually figure it out? Well, the diagnostic process is actually pretty methodical, almost like a little investigation.
It really boils down to three main steps. First, and this is so important, is your story. What makes it hurt? What do you do for work or for fun? Then comes the physical exam. A clinician is going to check your range of motion, your strength, and find those patterns of weakness or pain. And finally, they'll use some special tests, like the Neers and Hawkins-Kennedy tests, which are basically specific movements designed to safely recreate that pinch to confirm that, yep, that's exactly where the pain is coming from.
And one of the classic telltale signs they're looking for is something called a painful arc. This is so interesting. It means that as you lift your arm out to the side, it might feel fine at the beginning and fine at the very top, but there's this painful patch right in the middle, usually between about 60 and 120 degrees. That's the sweet spot, or I guess the sour spot, where that squeeze on the tendons is at its absolute worst.
Okay, understanding the problem is one thing, but what about actually fixing it? This is the important part. Let's talk about the road to recovery.
And here is the most hopeful, most important part of this entire story. The research is so clear on this. A staggering 70 to 90% of people with shoulder impingement get better with conservative, non-surgical treatment. That is a huge number. For the vast majority of people, the outlook is fantastic.
So here's the game plan. The first line of defense, almost always, is conservative care. And in this world, physical therapy is king. We're talking about strengthening the rotator cuff, improving shoulder blade control, and of course, modifying your activities for a little while to let things calm down. Posture work is huge too. Surgery? That's really a last resort. It's usually only even considered if you've done several months of dedicated conservative care and it just hasn't solved the problem.
It really helps to think of pain as a signal. It's just your body trying to communicate with you. And shoulder impingement is a mechanical problem and sending a very, very clear message. So the real question is it time to listen? Because paying attention to those signals early is absolutely the key to a faster recovery and to getting you back to doing what you love completely pain-free.